I'm just going to start off because I think we only have this 1 hour. So, is it already 1:30? No, 12:30. So we have until about 1:15. So we have 45 minutes, which is not that much time. So let's try and get the most out of it. And the most important is I don't want to hear myself or our team speaking. We really want to get your inputs, and we need to try to find the best way to do that. So given what we've talked about in the last session and how prevalent or harmful the potential impacts on the environment can be and the subsequent impact on different sectors. But as you all saw how very much water is a key factor in the different ecosystems for water, surface water, groundwater, flood management protection, water quality, flow regulation, how that has probably the biggest impact on all sectors. And it's also very much at play for the agricultural sectors, for the mining sectors, and a lot of impacts in the manufacturing sectors. We need to try and think specifically, let me just go back again to think also about that slide, just to remind you, here's that slide about the water, and you can see there, we have so many really water sensitive, 113 water sensitive municipalities, and then those areas of the countries where there's a big overlap of where there's production and water sensitivity, so vulnerable parts of the economy. So with that in mind, I'm going to start with looking at 3 themes that we thought might be quite relevant from a policy perspective. But again, these are just straw dogs, and so what we want you to do, sorry, I just want to find myself. Where are we now? That's agriculture. I'm going to go to water. Here's water. And so the first theme that we're going to talk to is sustainable water management. And under that, we've thought about things like investing in nature-based solutions and ecological infrastructure, where there's been this big body of work produced by Sandy and others in this ecological infrastructure for water space. We may think maybe about things like water pricing and its role in moderating the use of water, how people value water, and across different sectors. And then also efficiency incentives to manage demand and conservation. So this is just one idea. What you may bring is, firstly, what policies do you think in your sector that you work with, do you think is relevant to this? And how, on the whole, do you see the relevance of this to your sector and the potential policy implications? So you can, it doesn't need to be a cohesive body of exactly the same stuff. We may come with very different ideas in terms of how it's relevant in your work and in your sector from a policy perspective. Write it on the card. Then you can bring it to me, you can read it, I can read it, just so that everybody hears it, and then we'll put it on the flip chart and try and organize them in themes, or in sub-themes, around sustainable water management. So go for it. Let's start with the first one, and then we'll move on to the next theme. Thanks. Do you want to?
So just So just want to sense check, is there any questions of clarity? People are clear?
Yes.
The first thing is investing at home.
So investing in nature-based solutions and ecological infrastructure, but it's all around concepts around sustainable management.
I think from your own perspective where you're based, whether you're inside the water sector, whether there's dependency for the work that you do in terms of water, etc., how does that link to your work? In particular, thinking from the lens of what does this mean for policies, plans, strategies, and how that gets impacted. I really want to get some good ideas.
And when you're done and you're ready, you can put your hand up, and one of the two runners can come. Either you're welcome to come down and just come and share with everybody. It's quite an informal space, so you can even stand and read it from there, and then we can just take your card and we're going to come and organize it here.
Okay, so I just want to understand, so it's also in terms of impact and conservation of the water infrastructures as well.
Yes.
That would include wetlands.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Something that I was quickly thinking of that we are actually dealing with now is the whole offsetting issue. Where there's an impact on a wetland and then the proponent want to offset some other area for it. Now the one issue that we already is finding is that people would want to take a wetland within the property site and say, well, we will offset this, we will give it to conservation. But that's actually fatally flawed because that is already duty of care. So would that be an idea that we can throw in?
I think these are just some of the complexities that we need to think about as we enter this space, definitely. It might be a good idea just because we don't know who you are, but maybe just to say, I mean, you're welcome to say who you are as well, but just in what context you are working, because this might be very relevant when we think about the input that you're making and bringing that into our policy work.
Thank you very much. My name is Gogo Namsaswego, a traditional leader. I think the one part of water management that's never ever looked at is the spiritual connectivity of water to our people. Especially as a traditional healer, we use water for everything. We communicate with water, we cleanse with water, we use water for everything. So there needs to be a consideration in any policy that's being made about the spiritual use of water for South Africans. The second thing is, I believe that DWS should have been a part of this because they are the major contributor to the contamination of our water, because they open up sewage pipes into the water streams and they mess up what we're supposed to be using the water for, because it gets contaminated from way up there upstream, and by the time it gets to us, it's too contaminated for us to use, which basically infringes on our cultural rights as well as how we practice, because as I said, rivers are our offices and they are contaminated by something other than ourselves. Thank you.
I think both the comments that you made also relate to the regulatory framework that was talked about later, because also how does policymakers frame these regulations and these problems, and to what extent is it inclusive?
So Nomsa's want to talk specifically about water as a key resource and the spiritual value of it. I just want to check, is there anybody else that's got something linked to that so that we cluster those appropriately? Okay. So Dee's got one there. I've got another one on the side which talks more from a policy and strategy perspective, coming from DWS, if you want to add.
Thank you. From a policy perspective, we've got the National Water Resource Strategy, which speaks to EBA and IA. That needs to be mainstreamed within the water sector as part of protecting our water resources. And we have the updated draft National Climate Change Response Strategy, which speaks to promoting investment and increasing investment, and we have a number of pilot projects that we're implementing